35 years ago, during a family vacation in Sweden, Elaine vanished without a trace, leaving her family in grief. Her son, Alex, never let go of the mystery surrounding her disappearance. Now, he has returned to the very place where she was last seen, hoping to uncover what really happened. Determined to find answers, Alex embarks on a journey that will reveal secrets hidden for more than 3 decades. Secrets that could change everything. But before we dive into the story, make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our exciting stories. Alex hadn't told his family about the trip. As he sat on the plane, the memory of that day, 35 years ago, consumed him. The police had found no clues about his mother's whereabouts, and like the rest of his family, Alex had been forced to accept that she was gone. But now, he was ready to confront the past and find the answers he had always sought. Upon arriving in Sweden, Alex rented an apartment and quickly settled in. The next morning, he woke early and began exploring the town, piecing together fragments from his childhood. He entered a small cafe, spread out old family photos, and began planning his next move. His first destination was their old family apartment, where his mother was last seen. When Alex reached the building, he knocked on the door, hoping the current resident might recall something. An elderly man answered, speaking rapidly in Swedish. Alex showed him a photo of his mother, but after a brief moment of recognition or confusion, the man abruptly closed the door. Disappointed but undeterred, Alex continued his search, visiting places from his childhood and asking locals if they remembered his family. Despite his efforts, no one recognized his mother or had any information that could help. After a long, fruitless day, Alex returned to the cafe, where Astrid, the owner, had taken an interest in his quest. She offered to make some calls, and although Alex was hesitant at first, he eventually accepted her help. The next day, Alex felt slightly more hopeful with Astrid's involvement. He revisited familiar places from his childhood, but once again, his efforts yielded no results. He showed photos of his mother to shopkeepers and locals, asking if anyone had ever met Elaine. Most people responded with polite smiles and sympathetic shakes of their heads, but no one recognized her. It was as if his family had never existed in this town. Frustrated but unwilling to give up, Alex took careful notes on every interaction, hoping that even the smallest detail might lead him closer to the truth. As evening approached, Alex returned to his rented apartment, exhausted and disheartened. The next morning, he sat down with his host, Eva, over breakfast and shared his story. He showed her a worn photo of his mother, explaining how he had been searching for answers for so long. Eva studied the picture for a moment, her expression suddenly changing. She handed the photo back to Alex, her voice trembling as she said, "I've seen her recently." Alex was stunned. Could it really be possible? He pressed Eva for more information, and she described a woman she had seen in a nearby village just weeks earlier, who closely resembled the photo of his mother. Though skeptical, Alex couldn't ignore the possibility that Eva had seen Elaine. It seemed improbable after all these years, but Alex had to investigate. Together, they made plans to meet this woman, hoping to finally uncover the truth. The following day, Eva and Alex traveled to a small cafe where the woman, whom Eva believed to be Elaine, was supposed to be. Alex's heart pounded with anticipation as they entered the cafe. Eva pointed out a woman sitting alone in the corner, her back turned to them. Alex's mind raced as he walked towards her. But as soon as she sensed someone approaching, the woman bolted from her seat and rushed out of the cafe, disappearing into the crowd before Alex could say a word. Shocked and confused, Alex asked Eva if she could contact the woman again. Eva tried, but her calls went unanswered, and her messages were left unread. Desperate for answers, Alex even called his father, hoping he might shed light on the situation. But his father was dismissive and angry, insisting that Alex was chasing phantoms and refused to help. Feeling more isolated than ever, Alex's resolve only grew stronger. He had to keep searching for the truth, no matter what. Back at Astrid's cafe, Alex found himself falling into a routine. He would sit at the counter, sipping coffee, while waiting for any word from Eva about the mysterious woman. Each day, he revisited the same locations, talked to locals, and showed them photos, but no one recognized his mother. With each passing day, Alex's hope dimmed. He began questioning whether this search was worth it, or if he was just chasing shadows. One evening, as Alex was heading back to his apartment, he felt an eerie sensation of being watched. Glancing over his shoulder, he noticed a shadowy figure following him from a distance. Every time Alex quickened his pace, the figure did the same. His heart raced with both fear and curiosity. Who could it be? What did they want? Alex decided to confront the mysterious follower, leading them into a more secluded park. The tension in the air was palpable as Alex stood waiting, bracing himself for what was to come. The figure slowly approached, and when they finally stepped into the light, Alex's breath caught in his throat. Standing before him, pale and ghostly in the dim glow, was none other than his long-lost mother, Elaine. The moment felt surreal, as if time had stopped. Alex could barely believe his eyes. He stood frozen, 1,000 questions flooding his mind. Elaine, looking worn by years of hardship, met his gaze with a mixture of emotions: relief, fear, and sorrow. Without saying a word, Elaine led Alex to a quiet bench in the park, where she began to unravel the story of her disappearance. She explained how, during that fateful vacation 35 years ago, a hike had gone terribly wrong. She had strayed off the marked path and become hopelessly lost in the mountains as fog rolled in. Days turned into weeks as she wandered, her only focus on survival. Eventually, Elaine had suffered from amnesia, unable to remember her own name or her family. For years, Elaine had lived in a small village where no one knew her past. Her life had been a blank slate, and she struggled to piece together fragments of memories that came and went like whispers. It wasn't until recently that her memory began to return, and with it, the desperate need to reconnect with the family she had lost. As Elaine shared her story, Alex listened in stunned silence. The years of grief, confusion, and longing suddenly made sense. His mother had not abandoned them. She had been lost, both physically and mentally, for all those years. Elaine continued her story, her voice trembling as she recounted the years she had spent trying to recover her identity. She explained how, once fragments of her memory returned, she had tried to make contact with her family, but each attempt was met with failure. Her incomplete memories, combined with the physical distance between them, made it impossible for her to reach out effectively. The distance was not just geographical, it was emotional too. Even when she began to remember, she felt disconnected from the life she had once known. The reunion between Alex and Elaine was bittersweet. While they rejoiced in finding each other, they mourned the decades that had been lost. Together, they wept for the time they would never get back, but they also found solace in the present moment. Elaine had survived, and now she was ready to come home. As the shock of their reunion began to settle, Alex and Elaine started discussing their next steps. Elaine was eager to return to the family, but both were aware of the challenges ahead. How would the rest of the family react? How could they prepare them for the shock of seeing someone they had mourned as lost for so many years? The thought weighed heavily on both of them. They carefully planned how to reintroduce Elaine to the family, considering the emotional impact it would have. Elaine knew her return would stir up old wounds, but she was determined to reunite with those she had loved and lost. Alex helped her navigate the complicated emotions tied to their reunion, and they slowly began piecing together the fragments of her missing years. In the days leading up to their journey back home, Elaine shared more details of her life in the village, how the people there had helped her survive, the small moments of joy that had sustained her, and the deep struggles of living without a clear sense of who she was. Each story brought Alex closer to understanding the life his mother had lived during her years away. When they finally returned home, the family was overwhelmed with shock and joy. Tears flowed as they embraced Elaine, their long-lost mother, sister, and wife. It was an emotional and surreal moment, as family members who had long accepted her disappearance now celebrated her unexpected return. Slowly, they began the process of healing, knowing that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but also hope. Elaine's return was not just a reunion, it was a chance for the family to rebuild, to heal the wounds of the past, and to forge a new future together. As they sat around the table, sharing stories of the past and dreams for the future, they knew that their lives had been forever changed by this miraculous event.